Welcome back to GD Viper Works. I have something else in the works today to show you. Never satisfied with some of the stuff that I make, and it usually goes through multiple iterations. I know you've already heard this from me, but here's what I'm going to upgrade today. Bam! There it is. That's my threat warning aux panel. Yeah, it works. It's 100%. And you've seen this before when I initially made it. But why am I unhappy with it? I mean, the backlighting works. Everything works. All the buttons and the rheostat or the potentiometer, that works. But here's what I don't like about it. The font is too small on both top and bottom. Everything here works, but I want to pull that apart because I put the color filter in the back against the bulbs instead of up in the front. So it actually kind of casts a shadow. So I don't like how these actually light up. They're not as nice as my TWP. This fuse holder, yeah, that's not correct. I mean, it can get by, but, you know, to anyone who's really kind of anal about how they construct their pit, that is not correct. So we're going to fix that. So, unfortunately, the way these are all mounted through the frame, I have to put in new lighting, and then I have to cut these wires and resplice back in because otherwise I can't get them out of the back panel. So that's going to be the task today. Luckily, I have plenty of wire to be able to splice this and redo that wiring. Have to be very careful though, make sure that it all goes to the right places so it matches up with my circuit boards. So what are we going to do to this? Well, okay, so here's the back panel. That's nothing really exciting, but here is the new front panel. Boom, here it is. Look at that. That is the actual fuse, the 3-amp fuse. So I made this yesterday. You can also see I like that it's actually a nice flat finish, flatter finish, and the text is a little bit bigger, much more readable, and I will have a knob on the potentiometer as well. So that's today's project. Let's take a look later and see how it's going. It's starting to come together. All the wiring is done. Everything has been spliced back in together, and all the connectors are back where they belong. Took a lot of time to actually sort them out, so I didn't have to reprogram my circuit boards. As you can see, there's a lot of little diagrams as well as markings to go along with the wires to make sure they're all in the same places that they were before I started cutting it apart. The last thing I need to do, and this is probably the biggest pain, is open up these caps again and move the colored filters. After that, should be done, ready to go. Plug it back in, and I shouldn't have to program a thing. Now that it's done, the backlighting has been checked. As you can see, it works. Because it's not plugged into my computer and the Arduino to run the push buttons, there's no light in the push buttons right now, but they'll be perfectly fine. So that's my new improved threat warning aux panel. Usually it takes me longer than I think it will. I've been working on this since 10 this morning. Probably took about an hour off, and it's now 4. But remember, these are some of the parts from the first version. It did not have the correct fuse holder or the proper knobs, and the font was too small, and what else? The finish was just too shiny. And now it's a much better finish. So I'm going to put this back in the pit, and we'll confirm that it all works. Here it is, the threat warning aux. It's now installed back into the panel. And unfortunately, it is obscured a little bit by this wind wing. This is the original TQS arm, which will be removed, but we'll get to that in a second. So here it is, plugged in, lights work just as they did on the bench. As you can see, it's off. Threat warning prime and RWR is also off. Let's go down and turn it on. There it is. It's a little bit of bleed on some of the light through the indicators. The amber, not really happy with that. However, just to show that it will get a lot brighter when you actually select something like low altitude. Search, and activity lights up when I'm receiving, so I can't turn that on. But as you can see, low altitude. Also, while this dimmer does not work on the panel itself, it does actually work inside of DCS. And also easier to see up there on threat warning prime. So the next step here is to get rid of the wind wing F-16 TQS. Get rid of this actual F-16 TQS. Problem is it impinges here. It's also missing another part under here that I need. Just won't work out too well. It's not designed to fit in a SimPit. However, this one is. I've been slowly putting that together. It's not quite done yet. I need a few more parts and pieces. And then that will replace both of those. And once that's done and put back in place, I can get busy on this whole console, especially everything underneath here. And continuing to the back. None of this is functioning back here yet, but it will be soon, in time. Thanks for tuning in again.